Krka National Park is a good alternative to Plitvice Lakes, due to the fact that swimming in Plitvice Lakes is prohibited, but swimming in Krka National Park, even near the beautiful, cascading falls, is popular with locals and tourists alike. The Skradenski Bug Falls are actually one of Croatia's most well-known tourist attractions, and they're certainly a sight to see, rather than the water flowing in one clean line down the falls. The falls is a collection of nearly 20 separate falls which range in height, but the Skradenski Bug Falls aren't even the only set of falls in the park. One of the best ways to get out and see other collections of falls is to organize a boat tour along the river. Langfossen, Norway. When it comes to the tallest waterfalls in Europe, Norway definitely packs a punch. It's home to all of the top 5 tallest waterfalls on the continent, as well as plenty of others in the top 50 tallest. Vinnufossen ranks as the tallest waterfall in Europe and the 6th tallest in the world, but personally, I think Langfossen is a much more impressive waterfall to visit. This is partly because, unlike many other waterfalls in Norway which have been harnessed to provide hydroelectric energy, Langfossen still roars freely down the high cliffs and into a craft Jordan. It's possible to take beautiful pictures of the waterfall with the fjord in the foreground, plus there are a couple quaint Norwegian villages scattered around the shores of the fjord. Rhine Falls, Switzerland. Although the Rhine Falls lack in height compared to some of the other entries on this list, they more than make up for that in terms of width. Indeed, the falls spread across the river for nearly 500 feet, and during the summer, given all the snowmelt in areas upstream from the falls, you'll find an impressive amount of water pouring down over the falls. One of the best areas to view the falls from is on a boat in the Rhine River, where you'll be able to see nearby Worth Castle and Schlosslaufen. Schloss means palace in German. There are also a number of viewing platforms on both sides of the river. Terme de Saturn, Italy. This geothermal waterfall, located near the village of Saturn, has been popular with bathers since the Roman times. In fact, take a dip in the spa-like waters and you will be following in the footsteps of many a nobleman. There are a few different waterfalls located in the area, including the Mill Falls and the Falls of Gorlo. Some spots require entrance fees, like the spa waters of the Terme de Saturn Spa Resort, but at other places, you'll be able to take a dip and take in the beautiful, natural scenery, free of charge. What's not to love about relaxing in warm, and some say, therapeutic, waters in the middle of quaint Tuscany? Waterfalls, Iceland. There's nothing more mysterious than a waterfall cascading down into a cave, which is exactly what you get with this place. Getting to the waterfall is not for the claustrophobic. You'll have to slide through a narrow crack in the rock to get into the cave where you can see the waterfall. But once you're inside, you're sure to be impressed by the look of the falls, which seem to come out of nowhere. There's also a viewing platform about halfway up the falls for a different sort of view. Just make sure you wear waterproof shoes, as the spray tends to get your feet a bit wet. Bigar Waterfall, Romania. This waterfall often wins accolades for being the most impressive waterfall in the world. Reason being, it's one of the most unusual waterfalls in the world. The water fans out around a conical protrusion of rock covered in bright green moss, splitting off into hundreds of smaller streams that flow down into the river below. The effect of this is that the water creates a sort of shimmering veil around the rock. When you're done gaping at the waterfall, you can also hike up and see the cave that the water flows from. Just make sure you wear good shoes, as the path can be a bit slick depending on when you visit. Pliva Waterfall, Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's what's behind this waterfall that really makes Pliva Waterfall so impressive. Of course, the 70-foot cascades are impressive in their own right, but behind the falls, you'll be able to see the town of Jajce, which rises high up onto a hill, dotted with historical buildings and fortifications and crowned by a 14th century fortress. Head down the river from the main waterfall, in the direction of Pliva Lakes. There, you'll find smaller waterfalls alongside watermill huts, many of which date back to the late 19th century. During the time of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, these lie dormant today, but they were once key in grinding down locals' wheat, and they add a little something special to the beautiful scenery, not that it needs anything extra. The waterfall in Parc de Saint-Pons, located in southern France, about a half-hour drive from Marseille, is a bit off the beaten path for most tourists, and it'll take about an hour or two to hike out to the waterfall. It's worth it. However, to take the walk, the wide set of waterfalls flow down over mossy cliffs before spilling into the river below. But perhaps what makes this waterfall most interesting is the nearby Cistercian abbey, the Abbey de Saint-Pons, which dates back to the early 13th century but has been abandoned since the 15th century. This means that the place stands relatively untouched and unaltered even to this day, as a neat little bonus to your visit to the waterfalls. Gullfoss, or the Golden Falls of Iceland, is an impressive sight to see. The water comes from the Langjökull glacier, and the falls get their name from the color of the water as it flows in the sunlight. It's a three-tiered set of falls, each with impressive height and girth, and given the sharp turn in the course of the river between the upper falls and the lower falls, you won't find a similar view anywhere else in the world. Although there was a lot of talk about putting in a hydroelectric plant and taming the falls, this never ended up happening, and the falls today flow free and wild, and are likely to do so for a while in the future, given that they are currently protected national property. Gosdalur, Faroe Islands. The Faroe Islands may not be the first place that you think of when you're planning your trip to Europe, but there's so much charm in this small set of islands located midway between mainland Europe and Iceland. Gosdalur village is home to fewer than 50 people, despite the fact that it's relatively easy to access by roads thanks to recent infrastructure that's been put into place, and the falls, which cascade down over high sea cliffs, with the village and the surrounding mountains in the background, are a very special sight which has featured on postal stamps and more.